Hello, in this recording I'll provide an overview of using the config slicer tool to move a workflow from one Clarity system to another. So if we think about this, we've got the source Clarity system on the left and the destination Clarity system on the right, and obviously we want to export from one system and import it into the other system. So how does this work? So it actually takes three operations. So in the first operation, we run the config slicer tool against the source Clarity system, and we tell it what we want to export, and that gives us a manifest file. And then we run that tool a second time. This time we point it at the source Clarity system and the manifest file, and then it will actually do the export and give us an XML file. And then in the third pass, we run the config slicer tool, we give it the XML file, and that causes the XML file to be imported into the destination Clarity system. And overall, the workflow has been transferred. So let's actually take a look at the config slicer tool. So there's a number of places where you can run this tool, but you should know that each Clarity server has a copy of the tool. So for convenience, I'm going to log into the source system and run the tool there and do the export. So how you connect to the system may vary. I'm just going to log in. And I'm using a key here rather than a username and password, but don't let that trouble you. Okay, so I'm into the system. So the config slicer tool is run through Java, and just to make sure you've got the right version of Java, use the one which comes with Clarity. So that's under opt gls clarity bin Java. And we need to point it at a jar file, and the jar file is the config slicer. So that's on the server, that's opt gls clarity tools config slicer. And let's just hit enter now. We haven't provided enough parameters to the jar file, but let's see what it does. So it'll give us an error telling us that we're missing options, and it'll list the options. So what options are we going to specify? We're going to use the -a, which points to the destination server. Since this is the first operation, we're going to be generating a manifest file. So that's -m. We'll be telling the tool what to do, so we'll be setting an operation or a -o, obviously username and password. And we'll be specifying that it doesn't export every single workflow but a specific one, so we'll use the -w. So let's build this up. So we need to tell it the API of the source system, so that's HTTPS has to end in API, put my username, my password, so the operation that we're doing is going to be custom, and we need to tell it to write its information into the manifest file, and we can call that whatever we like, but I'm going to call it covidseq.text, and we need to tell it which workflow. Now, if we look at my Clarity system, here is the name of the workflow that I want to export, and you'll see it contains spaces in the name. So spaces can confuse the tool, so it's best to put those in double quotes. So I'm going to copy the name of the workflow, paste, and let's see this. running and see if we've generated any mistakes. It looks like it's doing something. It's logged in. It's figured out what workflows we want. It's figured out what protocols we want. And now it's gathering all of the relevant information, and it's going to put that into the manifest file. And this should take a minute or two. And it's done. So that's the end of part one. We've run the config slicer and we've generated a manifest file. Now that we've got our manifest file, it's time to run the tool a second time. And so we can reuse the command that we generated in part one, but we need to change some options. So we don't need the -w anymore. And we're going to change the option, the -o, to be export. We need to point it at the manifest file, which we called covidseq.txt. This time we specify a package. This is going to be the name of the XML file that we're going to import onto the destination server. So let's call it covidseq.xml. And let's see if we've got everything we need for this. So it's running, it's exporting everything which is needed by that workflow. So we've seen container types, just flashed by were the reagents, the indices, the molecular barcodes, and then finally the steps. And we should now have a file with the name that we requested, covidseq.xml. And this contains all the information required to export the workflow from the, it has been exported. This contains all the information that can now be imported into the destination system. I'm going to simulate now how we would import this into the destination system. So as a prerequisite to this, I'm assuming that the XML file that we generated in part 2 has been moved to the destination system, and I'm now going to simulate running the config slicer tool on the destination system. I'm still on the source system, which is why this is a simulation, but I will at least show you the commands. So it'll be broadly similar to what we've done already. I'm going to just get rid of some of this. So we'll always need the -a, but it's going to be the destination system. So dest /API, where dest is obviously the full host name of the destination system. The username and the password for the Clarity user on the destination system. The O, the operation or the action in this case is import, and we need to give it the path for the XML file. So importing is easier. We don't need to talk about the manifest file, we just need the XML file. So you just need the -a pointing to the destination system, the username and the password, set the O to be import, and set the package to be the XML file, whatever that is. So if I was doing this for real now, I'd go ahead and press, and it would start to import, and I would get output generated, which would be stored also in a log file if it goes by on the screen too quickly to read. So that's an overview of using the config slicer. Just to review, first time we run it, we generate the manifest file. Second time we run it, we convert the manifest into an XML file. And then the third time we run it is only if we're importing, and that's where we give it the XML file and import that into the destination system.